Welcome Merchifiers to a tutorial about transparency. Alright, now I'm in Photoshop, and for the sake of those of you who do not know Photoshop that well, I'm going to walk through some Photoshop basics. This stuff's important, and I'm also, by the way, going to open up Illustrator and walk through it as well. But the key point I want you to learn from this lesson is that when you create artwork for Merchify, you need to use transparency only to knock out the artwork. So we have transparency showing up anywhere there is transparency, we see this checkerboard pattern. And if I load an image that's 100% solid, this black solid layer, and then I put my t-shirt back in, you can see the black is showing through under the hanger and then surrounding the image. That's because all this stuff that looks checkerboard isn't really a checkerboard. It is completely transparent. Now, it is possible to alter that transparency, and simply by using this slider right here that says opacity, you can take the image to 50%, 40%, and then save that file and upload that file as is to Merchify. Now I'm going to switch over to Merchify. I'm going to pretend that we already saved it out. And I'm just going to upload artwork that's already partially transparent. In this case, I have a file here that's a PNG that's 50% transparent. I want you to see what happens. Everything's behaving normally. Everything looks right, kind of, but this is not popping. It's not popping at all. And I can change out the colors, and on black, it just, on every color, it looks murky. It doesn't look like it's supposed to. The white doesn't look white. It looks green in this case, or brown. Army. It's because, guess what? It's like laying a ghost on top of the t-shirt. And I'm going to go ahead, for the sake of making this more clear, and upload an image that's 100% transparent, 100% opaque on top of this. Look at that. So now that this one's loaded, everything's popping. Everything looks right. And yet, we still have the transparency we want to knock the shirt out completely. So let me drop this layer out. Okay, and then hide this box. This is what we want. We want bright artwork popping and strong contrast with transparency to knock this shape out. And that's all we want. But here's something that can happen. And many of you do not realize that this actually is happening. Somebody in your office, somebody that you work with, a buddy, somebody gave you a file in Illustrator. Okay? Now I've switched to Illustrator, and I've got the original artwork, which Mr. Jones built by hand. In this file, I can also have opacity set to 50% or something less than 100. Now when I'm at 100, of course it looks perfect. But if I take this file and I save this like this with this entire group of objects, or any single object without 100% transparency, guess what? That artwork, when brought into Photoshop, I'm going to open that file I just saved. When I go open this, you can see that murkiness problem is showing up. Now, I'll point out that I'm going to make the width 14. This is, t-shirts are 14 by 16. They can be up to that size at 300. So I'm going to make this big. It's rasterizing this now. So what it's doing is it's converting the vector-based file format of Illustrator into Photoshop and converting mathematical curves into bitmaps. But I now have this ghost problem, and yet when I look at it over here, this is 100%. So the opacity that was created in Illustrator has been imported into Photoshop and rasterized, and now I can't make it 100% opaque from within Photoshop. I can't make it solid. I can't alter that. I can make it less opaque by making that layer even more transparent. But if I upload this artwork into Merchify, it's going to look just like the layer we just had in here. It's not going to look right. So what is essential for you to do when you are building your artwork, particularly if you're starting out in Illustrator or somebody gave you an EPS file or a PDF, is to open it in Illustrator, select objects, and make sure that opacity is all the way up. It needs to be all the way up. You need to not be trying to bring in artwork with opacity less than 100% unless it's supposed to be knocked out like the background. And you can pick a layer and pick an element and see, like, if maybe somebody made this part 50% opaque. Now, it would be messed up if you saw it that way, but it's essential that you upload artwork that's solid, or when we go to print it, it's simply going to look murky, flat. It's not going to look right. It's very basic, and a lot of people don't even realize it's happening, but we just want to walk you through this so that you understand how to avoid it in the future. All right, thanks for the time, and we love seeing what y'all are up to. Cheers.